Hi there and welcome to the Daily Arsenal News Show. Let's dive into today's top stories. Ian Wright says £27 million Arsenal player could be knocking on Mikel Arteta's door soon. Leandro Trossard is one of the most talented players in the Premier League, but he is not playing all that much for Arsenal lately. The Belgian has bundles of ability, but given how stacked Arsenal are in the attack, he has not been getting the game time that his talent warrants as of late. Speaking on the Wright His House podcast, Ian Wright has been discussing Trossard and his recent lack of minutes, and he claims that the £27 million man would have every right to be knocking on Mikel Arteta's door right now to question why he is not getting chances in the starting 11. Wright spoke about the attacker and his role at Arsenal. He said, "At some stage, Kai has to sit himself down and say, I'm keeping that guy out, should I be? Trossard has every right to go in and say, what more? Help me out? What more do I need to do? When I came here, it was about assists and goals. I have saved games. I help you win games. What kind of level of faith? What do I need to do? He's got a very good case. If he is knocking on Mikel's door, Mikel would have to let him in. He couldn't fob him off with, you need to do this or that." This is a really difficult situation for Mikel Arteta to navigate. On one hand, Trossard is probably good enough to start every week for most Premier League clubs, but at the same time, dropping any of the current crop of Arsenal starters is so difficult. Who would you pick to drop? Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli? They are two of Arsenal's most important players, and while you could play Trossard through the middle instead, he is not exactly a natural number 10 or striker. Trossard is a brilliant player, but managing his minutes is an unviable task for Mikel Arteta. Parlour says he really wants to see £45 million Arsenal Ace and Midfield with Declan Rice. Arsenal's midfield hasn't quite looked right in recent weeks. Declan Rice has been fantastic, but both Jorginho and Kai Havertz haven't pulled up any trees as of late in the middle of the park. Indeed, the Gunners' midfield has been bypassed too easily at times this term, but luckily, there may be a simple solution on the horizon. Speaking on TalkSport, Parlour has suggested that Arsenal's best bet could be to put Thomas Partey back into the midfield next to Declan Rice, claiming that he'd love to see the £45 million man in that midfield with Rice playing a bit higher up. Parlour shared his verdict on Partey. He said, "The contract was the most important thing. They probably wanted to try and sell him. I think a couple of clubs from Saudi Arabia were interested because he is going to leave on a free at the end of the season. He's had a few injuries in recent years. He is a really good player when he is fit, but that's a concern because I'd love to see him in that midfield with Declan Rice pushed a bit further forward in the midfield." We have to agree with Parlour. This could be just the solution that fixes Arsenal and their midfield. Of course, getting both Partey and Rice in the same team is much easier said than done. The Ghanaian is out of action for quite some time with a thigh injury, and these fitness problems have plagued him for way too long now. The midfielder just can't stay fit for a sustained period these days, and that's why we have barely seen Partey and Rice sharing the same pitch so far this season. Martin Odegaard says 22-year-old Arsenal player has real captain potential. Arsenal captain Martin Odegaard has expressed his delight at seeing Bukayo Saka adding leadership to his long list of qualities. The Gunners midfielder believes Saka would be similar to him as a captain in that both lead by example through actions rather than shooting. Odegaard became the youngest Arsenal captain since Fabregas when he took the armband last year as a 23-year-old. This was a great decision from Mikel Arteta, as the Norway international has helped the Gunners move up a level. Odegaard has missed out the last few games, so other Arsenal players have taken the armband in his absence. For instance, Saka was captain for the Gunners' 5-0 Premier League win over Sheffield United at the end of October. Ahead of Arsenal's meeting with Burnley at the Emirates Stadium, Odegaard spoke to the Gunners media team about the 22-year-old's developing leadership qualities. He said, Bukayo took the armband for that game, the first time he's been Arsenal captain, I think, and we can all see that he is adding leadership to his long list of qualities. I have seen it for a while, to be honest. I'm not surprised he is developing like this. I'm really happy for him because he deserves it. I think he is a bit like me in that he is not the one who shoots the most or the loudest one in the dressing room, but he is so intelligent. He is always available, he gives everything for the team, and he is taking more and more responsibility on and off the pitch. He really deserves to be there. As one of the captains, I'm proud of him and happy to have him as a teammate because he is a great player and also a great person. For years now, the plaudits have been coming in thick and fast for Saka, who is already a superstar and is still nowhere near his prime. It's great to hear Odegaard, to see how Saka continues to develop as a player and as an individual, and perhaps even as a permanent captain in years to come. He has what it takes to become an Arsenal legend in the style of Thierry Henry, for real. Graim Sunis takes up for Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta. Graim Souness has defended Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta in wake of the criticism aimed his way following last week's Premier League defeat. The Gunners saw their unbeaten start to the season ended by Newcastle as Anthony Gordon's controversial goal sealed a 1-0 win. Much of the post-match discussion surrounded Gordon's goal, with Arteta describing the decision to award the goal as embarrassing and a disgrace. Arsenal subsequently released a statement to back their manager and demand improved performances from officials. As per the Mirror, a subsequent review from an independent panel confirmed the goal was correctly awarded despite protestations over a foul, an offside, and the ball possibly going out of play in the build up. Some pundits criticized Arteta's post match comment. For instance, Michael Owen said on X that the only embarrassing and disgraceful thing about it was Arteta's behavior. However, Sunis is on the Arsenal manager's side, slating the media for always wanting to catch you in your moment of greatest weakness straight after a match, he wrote in the Daily Mail. I have to say I had sympathy with Mikel Arteta over his reaction to a flagrantly poor refereeing decision last week, and I have been in his shoes. The conclusion that Anthony Gordon's goal for Newcastle should stand was plainly wrong to anyone with an ounce of knowledge of the game, and of course, Mikel was having to come to terms with the fact that those officials were equipped with the most sophisticated video technology known to man. You have to ask yourself how hard it must have been for him when he walked into his press conference, given that he had half an hour to calm down, yet still went for the officials and their decision making in a big way. I can well imagine how he felt. I would have been boiling. Sonis added. The noise and controversy surrounding Arsenal last weekend is not something you want as a manager. I love passion and I was passionate both as a player and a manager, but I think Mikel would be wise to temper things a wee bit. If I were advising him, I would say remain as passionate as you are, but behind closed doors. Arsenal now front runners to sign £13 million Tottenham target who's got everything. Arsenal are reported to be front-runners in the race to sign Tottenham Hotspur target Lloyd Kelly. According to Sport, the Gunners are above all in the battle for the Bournemouth ace, who has been heavily linked with the Spurs of late. For instance, Sport recently reported that Tottenham are plotting a January bid for Kelly, whose contract expires next summer. The 25-year-old appears to have multiple suitors alongside Arsenal and Spurs in England and across Europe in pursuit of his signature. Tuttosport have now covered Juventus' desire to sign Kelly, but names Arsenal as one of the clubs who are above all in the battle for him. The Gunners are said to be along with Borussia Dortmund and Liverpool in the fight for Kelly, as well as AC Milan, and that's said to be a downside for Juve. Kelly is a good shoot for Spurs, Arsenal, or indeed any other big club in the Premier League and elsewhere. The £13 million signing is very talented in his prime and crucially has considerable Premier League experience. Several years ago, Newcastle Eddie Howe, then at Bournemouth, described Kelly as a footballer who has got everything he needs to be a top player. Better still, the player's expiring contract situation means he should theoretically be available for a bargain price. If the Gunners or our rivals Spurs can wait until the summer, they could even snap him up for free, which would be frankly ridiculous for such a good player. Arsenal and Tottenham will certainly fancy their chances of signing Kelly next year, but with so many top clubs also in pursuit, it will be a difficult battle for his services. Arsenal could now sign midfielder who was outstanding against them this year. Arsenal may well be in the market for a new midfielder in January. The North London club are lacking a bit in the middle of the park at the moment. Kai Havertz continues to falter. Thomas Partey is out with a long-term injury, and Jorginho has been very hit and miss since joining Arsenal. The Gunners need that elite midfielder to come in and partner Declan Rice in the middle of the park, and according to the Mirror, they could be moving for one player who was outstanding against them this year. Indeed, the Mirror report that Arsenal could be looking at a cut price deal for Amado Onana as Everton continue to stare into the financial abyss. Everton's takeover is still yet to be completed, and with FFP sanctions and a potential points deduction hanging over their heads, there could soon be a bit of a fire sale at Goodison Park. Onana is one of Everton's prized assets at the moment after joining the club last summer for £33 million, and he could now be an option for Arsenal. It has to be said that Onana and Rice would be a very exciting pairing in that Arsenal midfield. Both players are able to physically dominate any of their opponent, and if you put them both in the same team, the Gunners would overrun almost any team in the Premier League. Of course, Onana does have some shortcomings in his game, as he is not necessarily the most technical player, but with the likes of Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka ahead of him, that might not be such a big issue. This is certainly a situation to keep an eye on heading into the January transfer window. Fabrizio Romano says Gunners want to sign unbelievable £15 million midfielder. Arsenal will look to reinforce their midfield ranks in the January transfer window, according to Fabrizio Romano. The transfer insider, writing on X, says the Gunners remain keen on Aston Villa's Douglas Luiz, a player they have pursued before. Speculation linking Arsenal and Luiz has once again been mounting ahead of the January transfer window. For instance, just a few weeks ago, 90 Minutes reported that Gunners duo Edu Gasper and Mikel Arteta are huge admirers of the Villa midfielder. Now, Romano, one of the most trusted sources out there when it comes to football transfer talk, has linked Arsenal and Luiz ahead of the upcoming window. However, the Italian stresses that it won't be easy for the Gunners, but Villa are ambitious and want to keep him. He said, Arsenal are gonna look again into the midfielders market in January after Thomas' injury. Understand Douglas Luiz remains the favorite option in Arsenal's list since long time. Arsenal love him, but ambitious Aston Villa want to keep Douglas not easy. Romano is right to play this down as much as Arsenal like Luiz, and as good as he is, the chances of him switching clubs mid-season is very slim. Obviously, it's not impossible, but let's face it, Villa are a Premier League club doing well in Europe and currently sit just 2 points below the top four. They have got a solid manager in Unai Emery and made some outstanding signings this summer that wouldn't have looked out of place in a top four team. The likes of Pau Torres, Zaniolo, Tielemans, and Diaby were all being linked with the sort of clubs that challenge for titles and compete in the Champions League. What we are saying is, why would Villa do all that only to then sell one of their top players mid season and risk their campaign when they can just wait until the summer? Besides, after the £15 million man signed fresh terms with Villa just last year, the Gunners would have to pay a huge sum if they want to sign, whether in January or in summer. As we wrap up today's Arsenal news, remember to stay tuned for daily updates right here on the channel. Don't miss out on the latest updates, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a like if you found this information valuable. Your support means the world to us. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.